Let's check in with Danielle Slaton. Now, she won a natty at Santa Clara, won the silver medal in the Olympics, and wore that kit, that jersey. How's that for knowledge? For 5 years with the national team. Danielle, I'll just ask you about this. Affirmation, surprise, what are the emotions?
I think it's a big day. I think it's a huge step in the right direction. I think, as we know, when it comes to equality across gender, across races, it doesn't always happen in a straight line. It doesn't always happen as fast as we want, but today's a big day in terms of progress towards equal pay and gender equality for U.S. soccer.
For the person that doesn't know soccer, maybe they're just focused on some of the more big revenue sports, so to speak. Explain why today was such a monumental deal for women's soccer, national women's soccer.
Well, today, U.S. soccer and the U.S. women's national team that have been in a dispute, in a lawsuit for the last, six, 7 years now, finally agreed to a settlement. It's a $24 million settlement, and this class of 60 women's players who have played most recently for the women's national team will be getting that settlement over the course of 4 years. There's actually $22 million will be going to pay for the compensation dispute that has been had, and then $2 million is going to be set aside for these players to be able to get that money to use in their post-playing career and whatever pursuits they want to take on after they're done playing soccer. So a big day, still a lot of work to be done. This lawsuit is contingent upon the women's national team and U.S. soccer signing a collective bargaining agreement going forward. But in terms of looking backwards, this settlement is a massive day in terms of resolving what has happened over the past few years.
The collective bargaining agreement, that's a formality, right?
I wouldn't say it's a formality because, and I actually think that that's maybe the more important piece, if you will, because that is the document that is going to really determine equal pay going forward. And so U.S. soccer and the men's national team and the women's national team all have to get together and figure out an agreement that is equal, and that will determine how both the men and the women get paid going forward. And the biggest challenge around that is equalizing FIFA prize money. We know right now that if you win the men's World Cup, you get paid a whole lot of money, and that money is not the same if you're on the women's side. And so FIFA refuses to equalize prize money. And so the U.S. men's national team and the women's national team and U.S. soccer have to find a way to equalize that here in the United States. It's a big challenge, but that deadline is March 31st, and I know all of the parties are working really hard to make it happen.
What a wide gap. I saw the numbers while I was driving. I almost ran off the road. I mean, we're talking about $400,000 each if the men's team wins the World Cup. Women's team, well, you got, what, 4 of them? $110,000 each. That gap is too wide.
I would say it's even maybe bigger than that. I haven't seen the numbers lately, but the reality is that I feel like the United States can really be a beacon of light in terms of continuing to put pressure on FIFA. Yes, we always lead the world when it comes to women's rights, and we have the number one team in the world in the U.S. women. So we have that platform here to really be able to continue to change and push FIFA, and progress here is massive, but the step it can take in terms of being able to improve the game globally for women around the globe, it's a big deal. And I think the U.S. women's national team shoulders some of the responsibility in continuing to help make that happen.
Yeah, let me get this in. I mean, I just can't get my mind off of the whole bonus money. For the men, bonus money, upwards of, $67,000 for them. $32,000 for the women, and then they go out and win one of these friendlies as they try to qualify. $9,000 for a win. The women, $5,000 is just crazy. And I say that because let's face it, the national women's team, you guys are rock stars, city by city. Everybody knows Megan Rapinoe. Everybody knows Kelly O'Hara. Everybody knows Alex Morgan. I would shudder to think that I could walk down in the middle of San Francisco and go, quick, name 3 guys on the national team. I'd get a blank stare.
Well, I mean, the reality is, these women have become household names. And the reality is that, soccer is a global game. And the women in the United States are the face of this global game when it comes to women's sports. And I think that when you look at their ability to not only change soccer, but also to have influence across other sports and other industries, I think it's massive. And I think, again, today is a really positive day in taking steps towards making that happen in our sport and also around the world.
I'm curious, Danielle, how much texting chatter has been going on among you current, former members of the national team today?
I think there's been a lot of social media, texting, Twitter. I think the reality too, I am an older player, right? I'm not benefiting from this lawsuit. These women that are getting paid in this settlement are much younger than I am. And I think even the conversations that are happening around us old ladies, right? Us old folks who are really proud about the progress that we've made. Yeah, we might not necessarily be reaping the benefits financially today, but to know that we are taking steps forward collectively as an entire US women's national team, current alumni and the likes, and really sharing a small part in that makes me feel really proud. And I don't want to speak for everyone on the women's national team, but I know there's been a lot of conversations around that going on.
Last one from me. Years from now, this is for the younger kids that are out there working on their shielding drills and dribbling and shooting and all that kind of, having aspirations of getting next level like you were for 5 years. What is the message to them?
I think the message is to continue to work hard, to continue to put in the effort to find your path and ensure that you can find a way on the field. But when you get on the field and when you get to that next door and when you get and have that platform, you have a responsibility to not just help yourself, but to continue to help that next generation and turn around, reach down the ladder and pull up that next girl, that next woman. Because I think when our U.S. women's national team wins on the field and off the field, all of us win.
Awesome. 100% spot on insight, Danielle. Thanks so much for a few minutes, and we will monitor closely what happens moving forward.
Thanks, Vern.